Discmania just dropped 2 new molds-ish. We have the Notion, which is a new mold. It's a putter, and I was relatively surprised by what I found most comparable to this disc over the course of not only looking at the profiles, the feels, the flights in a field, and then playing around, but they also came out with the new MD4. Interesting mid. So let's first see how it compares to a bunch of other mid-ranges, including an older Innova-made MD4 eventually. Have some nice rips with them, and then see if we can shoot a pretty hot round at a local course. So let's check out the Notion, which is going to stay over here and be this white disc against a bunch of other straighter putters that might be considered comps for it. We'll throw them later, but first let's just get a look at the views, and then we'll do the MD4 next. Except I don't have an old Innova-made MD4 right now. We will in about 45 minutes. So first up, we have a Notion over on the left side, and this is a Discmania P2. You can see that the P2 is a little like deeper with how its bluntness. The shoulder actually looks relatively similar, except this one comes up a little bit higher over on the P2. And then on the bottom, the bevel is about the same pronouncement. It just looks like this is a little bit smaller than the P2. I don't actually have a P1 to compare this against. This seems to have a very similar shape to the P2. They just took this middle part right here and shrunk it a little bit for the Notion. And a couple other minor changes, but let's next take a look at a Axiom Pixel. And honestly, these are pretty similar comps, and it does make sense because the Pixel obviously is such a popular mold. This is honestly my first time looking at them, and the main difference I can see is kind of the dome is a little bit domier on the Notion. The Pixel is a little bit flatter, and the shoulder therefore is a little bit ever so slightly different. I mean, if you look at the parting line and everything, it looks like, just from the comparison so far, these two are going to fly the most similar by far. It might be a little blunter over here and a little more bladed, even though this is called a 2-speed and this is a 3-speed. This one might be a little faster just looking at the flight, but that could be completely wrong. If we next look at one of my buddies, Kevin Kiefer, great tournament this weekend, a Pure that he sent me, Retro Pure. This is a little bit interesting. I have these on the same size kind of stands. They're literally just cups from my kitchen. But the Pure sits a little bit higher, even though the bottom point and the topmost point are the same. But it looks like the Pure sits, and I think that's just because it's a little bit fast of a putter, and so this is beveled. It's kind of fully round instead of this is mostly round at the top and then beveled at the bottom. This definitely seems to be more of a traditional putter, and this is a little bit faster, verging on mid-range territory, which would make sense. 2-speed, 3-speed, but flight numbers don't really matter. And lastly, we're gonna look at the Discmania Logic. Both of these are from the Evolution line, and you'd think that these would be the most similar, but honestly, I feel like the Notion is most similar to the Proxy, of course, and then the P2, just slightly different, like we looked at. This, honestly, the Logic almost looks closer to the Pure in that it's like sitting a little bit higher, and what I have been told by some buddies, not from official Discmania sources, is that they kind of wanted to make a slightly more overstable Pure, and so they made the Logic. We will get out to throw them on similar stock shots just to see how they all compare before we actually play our 18-hole round, where there will be some interesting stakes. As in, this might be getting given away if I suck at disc golf today. And we will be putting with the Notion, because honestly, I feel like it'll actually feel like it feels really good in my hand to putt with, and I do like the rounded over putter, so that'll be really exciting. I'm also going to give myself one Spore lifeline when we play 18 holes, but let's quickly take a look at a bunch of different mid-ranges. But before we compare them, I want to talk through them ever so slightly. And the reason for that is the MD4 is kind of an interesting slot in the mid-range lineup. If you don't know, I'm pretty sure Millennium now owns or leases the old MD4 mold from Innova, and I'm going to go, like I said, and snag one of those from my buddy right before we go and play. So we'll get to throw it as a comparison. The MD4 kind of slots into an interesting spot that I might be intrigued about bagging if it flies well enough today and feels good enough in the hands. The hand feel is pretty good. It's a little bit blocky and not too deep, and honestly kind of has a little bit of a baby beat on the bottom of it there, and that bevel, and it sits in my knuckles pretty well for my power grip. So the slot of disc that I typically would throw for this is not really distant. I would either throw a very overstable Chariot. I have this Halo Chariot, which is the most overstable Chariots that I throw, but the Guava is another disc, which is also a little deep, but I've talked about loving this disc in that stable kind of 5502 slot, and that's what I would give this as well. My other Chariot's closer to 5501. These are 5403, which hopefully they fly true to the numbers. We'll have to end up seeing. And the only disc I have, I think, that would relatively compare to that is this Ra, which is a V-Rock, a Lion. I'm not 100% sure. Infinite disc, pretty overstable, so we're gonna throw this in comparison. But I think a step up from that disc are kind of your overstable approach style 5-speeds, which would be for me, the Ultra. Also, MD5 from Discmania is the step up. That's what I would compare to the Ultra typically, and the Discraft Swarm. But let's quickly take a look at the profile views. We'll go ahead and get started with the MD4 versus the Guava from Clash Discs. And the main thing that I see as a difference as to why I would think that this might be a little bit glidier, a little bit less overstable, is this is a blocky boy with a little bit of a baby bead on the bottom of it. The top is also kind of beveled on the top and on the bottom with a block in the middle and a bead, whereas this rounds down to the parting line and then has a not even as pronounced bevel, more of a curve down there, and it's more domey. This has a good amount of dome. This is mostly kind of flat at the top, but still a little bit of dome. If we kind of move on to my Halo Chariot, we'll see it's actually slightly closer. The Chariot is the old Innova MD3 mold from what I understand, and that would make sense because a lot of times what companies will do to make slightly more overstable versions, we just talked about this with the A2 and the A1, is take that disc and add a bead. And so it looks honestly way more similar than I thought. Wow, these are very, very similar discs, which obviously this is not the same old MD4, but very, very similar. The disc from Infinite's lineup that I think will most compare to it is this Raw, which the bead is definitely a little bit bigger, and the Raw might actually be a little more overstable. It sits a little bit higher, and that might just mean it's a little bit shallower, but the bead is way more pronounced, kind of double the size of the bead over here. Then everything else looks very, very similar in those discs. Who knows though? I'm interested to see if this is very forehandable. I would imagine it is. Next up, we have a look at the Ultra, which I think we're gonna start to see the difference as to why the parting line's a little bit higher on it. It's a little bit shallower of a disc. The Ultra is relatively shallow mid, but you have this shoulder at the top of the MD4 here, and there's not a lot of shoulder on the Ultra, meaning it'll likely be a little bit more overstable. And I think the most overstable out of all these is this Discraft Swarm, which is kind of like the Ultra, just this bevel is a little bit higher, it's a little more blocky, and a little bit even less of a shoulder, if that's possible. Now I'm excited to actually finish watching coverage, stopped on the final hole. Really excited to give these a toss, but first we need to see how the new MD4 compares to the old MD4. And to do that, we gotta take a little trip to my buddy Matt's house. All right, we made it to Matt's house. Should I dox you, do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, you said yeah? Bro, bad choice. You got something good for me?
Yeah, I've got a Glow MD4, courtesy of Wonderview.
Tell me if you think that they're similar. Did Discmania do a good job?
I'm gonna say yeah. They're like pretty identical. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Sort of see what happens with the MD4. If you lose it, I'll be a little bit bummed. I was bagging.
Dude, I can't lose this disc where I'm going. Don't worry. I'm not even gonna play with it. I just gotta use it for the field work session, which we're gonna go do now. Wow, look at that. Crazy. All right, last pit stop before we get out to the course. It's a little rainy out. I'm hoping that the rain stays away. But let's quickly take a look at this MD4 versus the new one. And I actually noticed some differences between the new MD4s and the new MD5s, because these, when you look at them, are pretty freaking close. If anything, the Discmania new made MD4 is a little bit rounder on its bevel, ever so slightly. Luckily, this is a pretty new MD4 that Matt had. He just was able to purchase it. But the MD5s, you guys remember when they came out, they were very different to the Innova made ones. The Innova made ones were similar to like a Gator-like disc, and they were like very blocky with a bead. The new MD5s didn't really have that. The feel in the hand of the old MD4 versus the new one might be ever so slightly deeper, but they are very, very comparable. We'll start with the MD4 since we're talking about it, and then get on to the other discs. I'm gonna try to throw mostly just some smooth shots out there, keep it flat to slight flex. Okay, pretty straight with some fade. It was interesting because it wasn't like a pushing hyzer at the end, but it also wasn't dumpy. It was very much in between, which you'd expect. Here's the Innova made MD4. A little more hyzer, but wow, those fly very similar. I think if you like the old ones, the new ones are gonna be pretty comparable. Here's a Chariot before the rain comes out. So there's gonna be the difference. Those are my stable Chariots, and you can see it's pushing more straight even as it's finishing. You saw less of the flight plate as it got to hyzer angle, and that's just because it's pushing more forward instead of just left. The Guava is gonna be similar, but probably closer to the MD4. But, oh, very pushy. Just one quick reminder, here is the MD4 again, the new Discmania made. What's going on?
They're a good audience.
I know, that's amazing. I appreciate that a lot. That's a really good flight. Like, very consistent feeling. I'm interested to see how they hold some anhyzer, so we'll throw those back if the rain holds off. Here's the Raw. which I think is going to be a little more overstable than those MD4s, but could be comparable. Oh, actually a little less overstable, I think. Ever so slightly. But the last two, you're going to see a bit of a difference. Here's the Ultra. Starts to want to fade a lot earlier when you throw it out there flat. And the Swarm, this is a beefy boy. Not the best throw, that is what it is. We'll go ahead and now rip on these Notions and then all the other putters. Throw the EXO hard, and I think these we're all going to throw on just kind of my stock hyzer and see if they pop up. Wow, very straight. They actually felt like they weren't going to be quite that negative 1-0. Here's the Pure. See, that one will flip over. Maybe a little less hyzer, but very straight. The Logic. Like I said, just a little more stable Pure, very similar flight, just more hookup. And that honestly makes me feel like I threw this a little bit bad. It is a little shallow in the hand. Surprisingly, now that like I'm feeling it to throw. So I'll have to give one more rip with this before we get on to the next putters. And those last ones are just gonna be the Proxy, which I think will be very similar. The P2, which will be more overstable. See if I can throw a little more driven hyzer. I think the first one was a little swoopy. No, they're kind of stable. Whoa, glidey though. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. I don't know if that's gonna be like this Proxy. Obviously those are new, and I've thrown all these other ones at least a couple times, so they might even change throughout the round. See, even that Proxy flipped up a little bit more, but I'd say those are pretty similar flights. And the P2, I'm gonna throw the hyzer. This is gonna be much more overstable, so you can see. The feel is a little more unique though now that I have it in hand. The shape is like a Proxy, but the underside is a little rounder. Notions first real fast on of kind of flat to Annie. Wow. Whoa, I thought I was gonna start fading. It looked like I wanted to start fading, but it just went dead straight. Since the Proxy looks the closest, I'll throw that and try to throw a very similar line. Wow, Proxy has some more throws on it. Notion, I think, is definitely most similar to Proxy. It looks very similar. It feels a little slower. Throw this on a big anhyzer and see if it'll just kind of pan and hold it. So it's really not burning. It's interesting. It looks like it's gonna start trying to fight out, but it can't. It's like trying, but it can't. For comparison, here's the Pure on that line. Like that's kind of burning over and never trying to come out of it. All right, anhyzer backhand and a forehand with the MD4, and then we'll get onto the course. I really feel like they did a good job replacing their old MD4s. The MD5 was pretty different. The MD3 is pretty comparable, but these MD4s, they seem to be pretty spot on. So we'll throw an anhyzer with both of these. Ow! 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 Wow. So that's a little high. So it's gonna stay a little nose up. Try not to really juice them too hard into the field, into the basketball court, but that flies like how you'd expect a 5-4-0-3 disc to fly. That's the Innova made one. Less angle. Wow, they're pretty comparable. The big question for me is on the forehand. I just kind of throw a flat forehand, will it turn? Okay, my forehand's so wobbly. Oh, but it came out, okay. It came out of it. We'll have to figure that out on the course. First forehand of the day. Hopefully that's enough warm up, because when we get onto the course, if I don't shoot 10 down or better, because there are some par 4s that we're actually gonna play as par 4s, even though normally they're par 3s, since we only have a minute a putter. So I have to say, if I shoot 10 down or better, I get to keep all 4 of these discs. If I shoot 5 down to 9 down, I get to keep both Notions and one MD4, but still have to give one away before I leave. And if I shoot worse than 5 under, putting with the Notion, throwing only both of these, I have to give one each away. Let's get to the course and see how we play. All right, we made it to the course, and if you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't hole 1, you're right. It's hole 3. We're still on hole 3. There's a couple people out. So we're gonna rip pretty fast. One rule I might not have told you guys, Spore, the Neo soft Spore that I'm not the biggest fan of, I get 1 lifeline today. And I can use it with that. So now that all the boring stuff's out of the way, let's go ahead and throw some Frisbees and try to shoot at least 10 down. Par 3, 226. Exo soft Notion right into the chains. Hey, I'm gonna talk right to Discmania right now. I know you guys like to watch sometimes, and if it's by chance you guys are creeping and you're watching and you're checking it out, if you want to ship out like all the Tour Series discs and like 5 discs, 9-hole birdie or die video, or 10 total discs, like different discs, 18-hole birdie or die video, I'd be so down. I mean, you got the address. One down. Let's see how these MD4s forehand. 278, par 3. Oh, even more than that. Oh, that's really bad. That first forehand, I must have really rolled over. Because you can, okay, you can put some into it. Sit down, baby. Oh, you can put some into it. What was I thinking? We should have a couple opportunities to get some eagles, so 10 should be definitely doable. Oh, pretty straight. I don't think I'm gonna hate putting with these at all. I think it's actually gonna be pretty nice. Hole 5, 246. We could throw the notion again, but I wanna see if we can give a little soft flex. Come on back, baby. I was very straight in line, so I think I threw that just about 250 feet. So if throwing a little flex, kind of how it'll react. What's so interesting is when I was playing on the Pro Tour, I did not throw mids almost at all on any of those courses. And then I get back home and everything is basically a putter or like a 9-speed. And so I just haven't really needed to throw mids. But in my head, I think that these are the types of mid-ranges that I'd want to fill a slot in my bag. So I'm hoping I can keep them both because it definitely is a slot that, one, I like Discmania, and two, it's a slot that like I don't have right now. And I might want to fill because sometimes my chariots are just a little too glidey. And I've noticed the farther I've been throwing, a little extra glide can be a little unpredictable. And if you can throw the disc as far as you need to on the line that you need to, glide sometimes can hurt you. They putt well if you put them over the cage. Hole 6, 294 up the hill. I think I could probably reach this one just on a hyzer, but we're gonna try, since we're going a little uphill, to throw a big anhyzer up the hill that starts left of the basket, finishes right, and then like kind of stables out and goes a little forward. Sit down, oh my gosh. Please sit down. That looks a little pumped. That thing is stable. I honestly thought I yanked it way too much and like into the ground. That was nice. Let's try to actually throw the shot I was trying to throw. Smooth. There we go. So pretty nice. The Notion is a pretty interesting name. One other quick thought that I had as well is, how close can two molds be and both get PDGA approved? Because this is obviously not the same as the Innova made one. But if you put a couple of those in your hands and the plastic was the same, or you didn't know which plastic was which, they're kind of relatively indistinguishable. Hole 7, 340, down the hill. I think this is gonna be a perfect one to just kind of show the straight flight of the Notion. Oh no. Wow. It's got the hookup. I keep thinking, maybe just because of the numbers, that it's gonna want to drift a little. Just doesn't. That one's nicer. Go in. Oh my gosh, how does that not go in? Oh man. Oh, double so close. I'm making myself throw this MD4 because I think I could definitely do it with a Notion. Gotta be an MD4. Trust yourself, touch an anhyzer, toward the right side. It's gonna get stable, even if you leave yourself a 25 footer. As long as it's not 40 feet, like these last couple holes, we're good to go. Yes. Oh, that is so nice. That's exactly the shot shape that I wanted with that disc. That is not a shot shape I'm at all comfortable with, but I do think the discs like Ultras and Swarms, they're harder for me because you have such an extreme anhyzer and such an extreme fade. Whereas something like this, I feel like it would be a better teaching tool for me in anhyzers. Whereas I can't really trust it with my chariots as much because they're a little too glidey. So this might have a spot in my bag just to work on these shots, maybe not even throw it, but I don't have tournaments coming up, so. So like that's way too overcooked. But still kind of comes out like, wow, that's pretty nice. Exo hard Notion for the ace run. Oh my gosh, come on. What? Good news for me after we tap this in is that, you see that T sign over there? Can I just show you what it says? Because you see the basket at the top of the ridge, par 4. I don't think this is reachable for me, but I'm gonna give it a big rip. I'm so glad for these T signs right now. Look at that thing, baby. If I don't turn this into 4 under at least, we got some problems. get over. Oh man, if that is any more left, I think it's parked. Come on. 304 feet, super downhill. No, sit. Doesn't claim that as OB down there, so if we're dry, we'll call it safe. I think I held on by a thread to give us a birdie look to go to 5. Oh gosh. Oh no. I might just have to stick. Oh. Where there's more grass, it's easier to straddle. Let's go. Hole 11, 345. I got stuff stuck on my shoe, so that's fun. We're going backhand with the MD4 again. That is nice. We're throwing a notion straight at this one. If you don't make it in the bowl, calling it hazard. Otherwise, there's absolutely no reason for this thing to be a freaking par 4. It's literally only 290 feet. It's just in a little bowl down there. So to make it not absolutely insane, it's still pretty insane. But we're gonna call it double mando at those trees right before the basket. If you don't hit that on the first shot, who cares? You just add a stroke. You don't have to like re-go through the mando, but you can't get a 2 unless you hit the double mando. So we're gonna go with the exo hard notion. Counter skip in. Well, we made the double mando. Okay, that thing got flippier too. That was more flip than I expected. I thought I kind of shanked it, but it was super nose down. I thought I was gonna ramp in. Ooh, baby. See if we can make the double mando with all of them. Nope. Yep. No, too stable. Oh, never mind. Great tree. 13, 175. Ace Town. Come on. Oh. No way. Oh gosh. Oh, a weak sauce putt. Straight up air ball. It's alright, we have 7 holes left. And we really only need 2 if we get one of the rest of the eagles. 269 up the hill. There's a little bowl that you can kind of land safe in down by the basket. So I'll try to throw a flex shot kind of right at it. That sits in that nice little bowl. Or ace runs it for no reason. Oh gosh. That was terrible. I didn't fall through at all. So much better, dude. Come on. Just a little fall through in your life. For once ever. And somehow we're dry again. At this point it feels like I'm cheating. Nice and slippy. Oh gosh. Oh, how'd I make that? I guess like that. Okay. 294. Up and a little left. So I'll throw a nice little spike hyzer with them. That's gonna be a little short. Really short, actually. Yikes, terrible guy. I guess that was pretty good to illustrate what a 220-foot spike hyzer looks like. Ooh, pretty straight. 264, straight ahead. We're gonna try to match the grade of the hill as it's coming in on Anheuser. If that didn't go a little too far, it was really good. That one didn't really drift too hard. It hasn't gotten that much more understable. That one definitely has. Go in. Wow. Oh yeah, baby. 9 down. But we might stop after hole 18 and just skip 1 and 2 if I do get the eagle. End it on a positive note. And because of that, I think on this hole, it's gonna be a little long for it, for my arm, but we're gonna try to throw a little bit of a flexing forehand. It's about 300 to 310. Oh man. Nope. All right, this is one we're definitely taking the Spore bottle. Come on, Spore, make up for it. That'll work. Hello, Mr. Spore. Last chance to eagle. I think we will skip 1 and 2. As long as we birdie or better. But I'm thinking the play here, I think it might be a notion, honestly. Push it left wind. Well, all right, a little offline, but as long as we don't 3-putt, this is the last hole of the video. Good news is, I'm about to make this. These are pretty solid. I really like those MD4s. Definitely, it's still a stability mid-range that I don't think I would actually bag right now, but I think working with it could be helpful for me. And then also going down elevation, I think I would potentially bag it because my chariots just get way too straight, like flip up straight almost. I could definitely see a place for that. I could also see a place for this at the bottom of the basket. That's a 25-footer. Should have just done one of these. JK, one of these. JK. Too easy. Psych! These are good. I don't know why I'm shanking all my second putts. Well, I kind of do know. I talked about it before. ADHD. Okay, that's that. These are fun. Thank you, Discmania, for sending these out. Hope you guys enjoy this review. Check back in tomorrow for more videos every day until my baby gets here. Woo! Go babies. Bye.